TA.
Details at TAappliance.com.
This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
I can't get over our twin shirts today, Kyper.
Oh, I barely noticed that.
Yeah, we're twinsies today.
That's what happens when you're on YouTube now. You get to look at what we're wearing.
It's a nice look. It's a good look. It's rugged.
Yeah.
Not very Irish, but
Yeah. Mine's a silk and
yours look like a nice quality.
No, yours is nice too.
It's all right.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Derek Brandeo, and Sammy McKee all together here for the next couple of hours. So wherever you are joining us, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, podcasts, or what am I getting in the background?
That's
It was Danielle yelling at me
Sammy and
because I buried her by putting Derek's name on the title.
Derek Brandeo is on my
Yeah, that's my bad.
yes.
You're Ron Burgundy. Just
Danielle.
read what's in front of you.
Danielle, how are you? She can't talk. She's not talking. She's giving me a thumbs up.
It's good.
Boy, did you bury her, Sammy.
Oh yeah, just terrible. I'm a terrible producer, boys.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Nice St. Pat's hat today, though, from Sammy McKee.
I literally have a hat for every single occasion.
365.
There's not an occasion I don't have a hat for.
So before Danielle was screaming at Sammy, I was saying, wherever you're picking up our show, thanks for joining us, because we know you could be just plastered right now somewhere else on St. Patrick's Day. And good on you if you're out there, if it resembles St. Patrick's Day 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because lately, hasn't been a lot of fun going out. No patios, no restaurants.
Yeah.
I hope it's a little different today.
My prediction today is that Toronto sees an unbelievable skyrocket in fistfights. I mean, people haven't been with each other. Like airline confrontations are up because people have been in the pandemic, and finally you get with a bunch of people and you just get angry. Now you're hammered at a bar with green beer and a bunch of frat behaving dudes.
I will say that after the 2 years and plus that we've had of, bars and restaurants going what they've gone through, this yo-yo of being able to be open, close, capacity, 25%, checking vaccination cards, doing all this different stuff that they've had to do over the past 2 years. It is a gift from St. Patrick himself to have the first gorgeous day of the year
Truly.
fall on St. Patrick's Day. The pub in my neighborhood, they were going all in. They had inflatable Guinnesses on the patio. They had the green stuff all over the place. I think
What's the
some
pub?
bars,
What's the pub?
the Dark Horse. Dark Horse.
The
it's called.
Dark Horse. A shout out to the Dark Horse.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And
They
the
love
long
it.
lost
Do
Foggy
they-
Doom, I love.
Do they serve
over.
little Buddha?
I'll get on
At
them
the Dark
next
Horse?
time I'm in there, aka the second this show is over.
Yes.
I'll get on them.
Good.
It's not a good day to be
You-
at the bars.
You don't have to pound those calories of green beer.
No, you don't.
this is the
There's
be-
light seltzer options.
This is the best day in university college age. I
Yeah.
always remember it being the big, for example, you look at the weather today and it's warm. You're kind of going out for the first time. It's kind of the start of spring, going into early summer. This is a great day for your early 20s. When you're in your 30s or
I'll
older.
throw a
it doesn't
pic
really
on
matter.
Twitter here when we're off air of me and Kip Brennan and Mike Haley in New Haven, Connecticut. I have no recollection of the day. But there are wonderful days in a certain age range. And
Yes.
St. Patty's
Yes.
Day on either side is kind of...
Yeah.
And what will complete this day, Sammy, is a Toronto Maple Leaf win. Are they sporting the green tonight? They
Oh,
have
yeah.
to, Boo.
They are. They're wearing the St. Pat's jerseys, which I love. I love the white and green. I wish the Sundin era ones that they did the green with the brown pants. I love that look as well. Maybe they'll bring that back one year, but I do love the new St. Pat's jerseys they wear.
Frederick Andersen returns to Toronto for the first time with fans.
Drama. What do you think, boys? What's the reception for Freddy? Coming back home after however many good years as a Maple Leaf? How do you think he's greeted tonight?
There's not a chance they're going to boo him. Is that what you're getting to?
Listen, I saw Jack Eichel get booed, and I apparently I know these are totally different circumstances.
Oh my God!
But like,
don't even compare Frederick Andersen
No, but
to
I thought
Jack.
he was beloved, Jack. I totally was out of touch with that market's feelings on Jack. Here, I'm in touch with the fact that a lot of people feel like Freddy cost them moving past his. Can I give you his elimination stats? Are we launching into the show yet?
His elimination stats.
Okay.
Dating back to Anaheim, obviously.
No, just in Toronto. So
just in Toronto.
His
Okay.
4 postseasons and his 4 regular seasons were night and day. His regular seasons, he was a 278 goals against, a 916 save percentage guy. He was an 893 save percentage guy in the playoffs, and in elimination games, even worse. It wasn't pretty when the chips were on the line. He gave up 14 goals over 4 elimination games, game 7s and a game 5.
And I can just think of the ones too. Like they're just burned into my brain. Tom Wilson off the half boards. I don't need to get him into the one guy in Columbus off the half.
Well, Sean Corrali to put them up 3-1 or something like that. I remember an awkward one when he was in Boston.
High glove.
Yep.
They're burned into my brain, and it's bad because he had so many good years here in the regular season where he was legitimately their best player a lot of nights, but it's just the big nights that cost him. But it's hard to boo a goalie, don't you think?
Yeah, they're not going to boo him. They're not going to boo him. No.
I think there'll be some moves.
We got a few clips, which leads to Kyper's Clippers. Do we start with Frederick Andersen on being a Leaf goalie? You want to go there first?
Yeah, we're going to stick with Freddy.
I don't know. I think I've dealt with a lot of different things that you don't see in a lot of time. I think I definitely before the pandemic was a fun time for me, and I think the world changed pretty drastically, and it was never the same. I think that at that time, but definitely enjoyed the first few years I was here, and a lot of good learning experiences.
How much are we reading into that?
Not as much as I read into All or Nothing, the documentary. That's for sure.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, that's where I get all my the basis on how bad that relationship ended between Frederick Andersen and the Toronto Maple Leafs. On isn't he healthy? How's he feeling? Can you check? No, you check. You go look. Is he wearing goalie equipment today? I don't know. That thing was as awkward as it gets.
He really went out of his way to specify he really enjoyed his first few years here, clearly saying he didn't enjoy the last couple. And I understand the pandemic is the shield he's using for that, but there is more to it than just the pandemic. They were bad years in terms of the relationship. Jack Campbell obviously came in, ended up starting when Andersen could have played, in game 1. And then I do think that some of what he's saying that he enjoyed the first few years here really highlights that he did not like how it went for a while.
Or maybe more specifically, the Lou Lamoriello years. Lou went all in on him.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't scouting. That wasn't anything else. That was Lou Lamoriello handpicking him out of Anaheim and then slapping him with a $5 million 5-year deal.
Which is a bargain.
All Lou. At the time,
it wasn't at the time, but it sure worked out.
At the time, I think it was it was a gutsy call because he had already been talked about not getting out of a first round.
Mm-hmm.
So
did he play before that contract, or that was just traded for him, signed the contract before he ever played a game?
Well, it was him.
I think he signed it right away.
It was him and Gibson battling back and forth, was it not?
In Anaheim,
In Anaheim.
Yeah. And then they traded for him and signed him before he even had any track record, I believe, with the Leafs.
Yes.
Well, if you look back at the amount of games played they got and the numbers they got, I mean, he was a bargain for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Steady, a guy who handled the market extremely well. Even when he wasn't happy at the end, it never really spilled over. He just wasn't happy, and he found out in other ways. But
there were many nights in his stay with the Toronto Maple Leafs when we looked at his games like we looked at Jack Campbell's, those first 35, where it was Leafs had no business winning tonight, but Freddy stood on his head.
He made a lot of, I would say, you could count on him to make the saves a goalie was supposed to make. It was just a consistent game. Obviously, it didn't happen in the biggest moments, and I know that's Sammy's contention, but he was wonderful. You look at what he's done this season with a D-core that really is effective and clears out the front of the net. I think he's a 2.06 goals against, a 929 save percentage, second best in the NHL.
30-8.
30 wins, 8 losses. Like, he is a Vezina, it's Shesterkin and Freddy. You know, those are the two guys. So he has really found it again this year in Carolina, which brings me to the question, you know, who would you rather have if you're a Leafs fan? Leafs fans were over Freddy, but would you rather have him or Jack Campbell? At this point, to me, you're crazy not to say Freddy, but I think a lot of people would still go with Campbell.
I think we should just start with a healthy Jack Campbell first.
If he's
healthy
in this scenario.
Right now, I got to think that the levels that we saw Jack Campbell in for the first half of the season should buy you enough time to say that I'll take my chances on Jack. Maybe not hitting that bar that was set so high, but even underneath it would be fine.
Yeah.
Not 940, but 915, 920 save percentage.
And be that all playoffs, including Game 7, Game 6, Game 5, whatever the game is, give us your 915. That would be good for Leafs Nation.
Which leads us into Toronto and Carolina tonight. Better to be playing a team contending for a Stanley Cup because you can't get points off of the ones that aren't.
Well, and we had the clip the other day of Sheldon being like, we'll evaluate ourselves against the good teams because apparently they're not against the bad teams.
So here we are, days before the trade deadline, and Sheldon Keefe was asked on the similarities today between the Leafs and the Canes. Let's have a listen.
Well, I think there's some similarities in how the two teams want to play. You know, I think that, you know, our team with some of the skill set that we have on our team, you know, we're doing different things with the puck at times. They're a little more straightforward, and the things are going ahead really quickly, and then it gets the pucks in the hands of their forwards, and then they're really skilled guys, really you know, make plays and things come together for them there. But certainly in terms of the structure of how each team plays, and when each team is at their best, I think there are definitely similarities there. I think you know, in terms of puck pressure and structure and how this team, Carolina, plays, they're the class of the league in a lot of regards. That shows up when you watch the game. It shows up when you look at it statistically. It shows up when you look at the standings. So, you know what you're in for when you're playing against a Carolina team. And I think when we're at our best, we do that well. We haven't done it to the consistency that we'd like to get into that class of where Carolina's, you know, sitting here now, and we're not far away from that. And tonight's an opportunity for us to get there.
Oh my God, he talks a lot now, huh?
Boys, you know how long he talked for today?
No.
13 minutes.
13 minutes. That's almost Babcock territory.
No, Babs is hard 3.
Is he a hard 3? It just felt like it was 13.
Yeah, every word was played in the media.
Hard 3, and then, okay, see you guys.
It felt like it was 13 because, you know, he made you take notes. It's like you were learning something new every day with Babs.
Yeah, but he was talking about like his relationship with Pete Carroll today. Like he was going into the weeds today.
Love it. Interesting guy.
Chatty mood.
So here we are in March 17th, and I heard, you know, the similarities that I got out of that clip was more like the ones that we heard in the first 6 games of the season than they were the last time they played them. It's almost as if he's kind of revisiting that whole measuring stick.
Yeah.
Where he wants to say that we're working towards getting to be a team like Carolina, but we're not quite there yet.
See, I find that a little demeaning to the team. Like they're such a little brother to this Carolina team. Like, yeah, you know, one day we'll play as well as them. First off, the one thing.
But in the last 2 weeks, he's got reasons to think that.
I know. I agree. One thing that stood out to me was the phrase, you know, we want to play like them. We want to play like them. Like that's like, again, to your point that he doesn't think that they're there, but they're trying to do what Carolina does. You know, it's just not there with any consistency. What's frustrating, I think, about this Leafs team is that they're a high ceiling team that when they play well can look like this Carolina team. We've seen them hang with that team, right? But Carolina seems to do it all the time, and that's why they're President's Trophy front runners, and the Leafs are fighting for third in their division.
The similarities end after the puck goes back in your own zone. They're just, Carolina's harder to play. They play a more Rod Brenda, more 200 feet game.
Defensively
and the Leafs,
sound.
Yes.
Very defensively sound.
And Slavin could be up for a Norris for the next 10 years of his career.
He is really remarkably effective at breaking up plays with that stick and positioning.
Very good. Very good.
Pesci.
Yeah, in just looking at these sport logic numbers on the Carolina defense, they're very similar to the Leafs statistically, and I know he said that in that quote, but like the one thing they give up is rush chances, like the Leafs. They don't spend a lot of time in their own end. They're first in the NHL in goals against, though. Leafs are 16th. That's different.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a big swing. So
Yeah.
Shalgren's fine.
Whew.
So
No problems, boys.
so much talk about what the Leafs need to do, or more specific, Kyle Dubas at the trade deadline. Where are we today? It's Thursday. Can we all come to an agreement that not much is going to change when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leaf goaltending between now and 3 p.m. on Monday Eastern? Or are you guys still buying in that Kyle's searching high and low?
I think they get Anton Forsberg. It's my take. I think they'll get a guy who's like a backup that's not going to cost a ton, who...
Some insurance.
Yeah, some insurance. Just you don't know if you can't trust Mrazek at all.
Another Riddick.
Yeah, but except I
Riddick.
think he's probably your backup for real. Like he's probably on the bench and Mrazek isn't. I know you don't want to trade Mrazek with a pick.
Who's out?
McKenna's boy.
Who's
he
out?
loves Forsberg.
Who's out? Mrazek. And Shalgren doesn't exist in this world where they trade for...
you're still buying the Mrazek will not be a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs by Monday, 3 p.m.
Kipper, how?
Yeah.
I know he's Peter Mrazek. I know what his contract is. How do you put him in a hockey game? You've watched him all season. You heard Mike McKenna come on our show yesterday. If you didn't, go listen to that. And I said, do you think he can find it? And he goes, no.
I get the theory. I get what you're saying. I just don't think that there's enough time for all of this. And I still don't have a Forsberg being your top priority right now. He has to find a defenseman or two. That is your top priority. He's going to run out of time.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
We're up against it here
I
now.
just don't know how he's going to get to your perfect world of finding a trade for
not my perfect world
for Forsberg, and yet unloading the $4 million next year and the year after.
Oh
on
no, he's
Mrazek.
just going to play in the minors. But I do have a Leafs decor. I want to talk about later in the show if they were to make a particular trade. We'll talk about that later. It's not the time.
Okay, we got Mike Fuda, senior consultant to the general manager in Carolina, Don Waddell, joining us. And Mike, Carolina's in tonight. Sheldon thinks it might be another measuring stick. Where do you see the Carolina Hurricanes going into the trade deadline and wants and needs? And how close is this team to being what you think can compete for a Stanley Cup?
Well, first off, Kyper, and good to hear from you there, Bourne. I haven't heard from you in ages.
He's big timing you now, by the way.
I know, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But I literally, if I break up, it's because I just got COVID tested to travel to go to Sportsnet to get COVID tested for Sportsnet. So the green beer is going to be pouring right out of my nostrils tonight for St. Paddy's Day. But to get back to your question, Kyper, this is an exceptional hockey team. Very well built, exceptionally skilled. They went out and acquired some veteran goaltending. I think they've got some of the most underrated defensemen, and like Slavin and Pesci on the back end. The D'Angelo experiment has been exceptional. He's been out with an injury, but he's bought right in and been a great teammate. So there's been a lot of quality moves. Now, personally, I think I've only been a part of one team in deadlines, and when we were on our run with Los Angeles, Dean Lombardi, and you see the teams that have done it. Dean Lombardi, when the team played the way they had, he rewarded them with a move. You can sit back and say, Berkey says only one team's going to win. But when you've had a team that's had a year like we've had, I think a move is really necessary just to give a boost. It doesn't have to be a blockbuster. It's no secret. I love Mark Giordano, but it's hard for the Carolina Hurricanes and Ron Francis to make a deal. It's just not really prudent with the relationship there. I'd love to see us make a move. The team's played, through all the injuries, they've just played outstanding hockey. And tonight will be a good test, I think, for us as well. We went in, like Freddy went in, and he's already played there, but it was in front of 8 people, and he they did the video tribute, and he got out and waved to the tarp. So it'll be nice tonight for him to play his first game in front of a full house, where there is a bit of a goalie conversation I heard going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it'll be interesting. It's a big game for Freddy to prove himself too, and it'll be fun. I mean, the Leafs clearly put her in panic mode in a good way and played a real solid game against Dallas. They're going to have to do the same thing tonight, because Rod Brindamore's teams don't take too many nights off.
No, they certainly don't. That has them positioned to potentially win a President's Trophy this year. This is your first year with their organization, Futes. What does your preparation for the deadline look like? Do you bring potential deals to the GM or ideas? Are you talking with other teams? What is your role in helping get Carolina prepared for the deadline?
Do you tell your general manager and owner, you guys are idiots if you don't listen to me, like I tell Sammy and JB here?
He does say that.
I say that to myself in the shower. I actually don't say it to them in person. First of all, I mean, Tom is a very active guy. He's a good man. He's really, he's done a good job supporting the team financially. Donnie's been exceptional for me. He's a hockey guy. He's a lifer. He wants to make moves to support the team. It's just an interesting thing. But to get to the point, they kind of give me free range. I mean, I've never crossed. I mean, I've got so many connections that I'll talk to assistant GMs and stuff about potential, prospects that they like on our side, and I'll put together a couple of scenarios that I think make the team better. I'm on all the pro conference calls, so it's never something that I'm bringing up a player that Mike Futa likes and the rest of the staff doesn't like. I take what I know they already like and what they covet, and in some cases I've got history with the players, so I can add much on the character and intangibles. And I think one of my strengths was with Dean Lombardi was being able to identify guys that were going to help us on our cup runs, and it worked out well. And I have the same role here in just suggesting things like that. And I mean, I obviously deal a lot directly with Justin Williams and Rod Brindamore as well, who've been exceptional with me, and the whole staff's been great. But Donnie's the one that makes the calls, and he's got a procedure he has to run through with Tom before he moves forward on something. But I think everybody'd like to see us get a little bit added into our ingredients. And I'm a big fan. It's hard. I'm not a big fan, guys. I ran drafts, and you fall in love with your own prospects and stuff. But when you get to this point, you got to put emotions aside. And for me, it's one thing for me to say prospect B or A or B is going to be a superstar, or when we move on from Sebastian Aho, this guy's going to replace him. Those are all, you'd like to see it, but that's not sure it's going to happen. The only guys that are NHL players are the ones that are in your room right now with NHL jerseys on under NHL contracts. So if you get too caught up in what you have in prospect land and who's going to be great 5 years from now, and you're not really willing to part with some good assets to make your team better, I have a big problem with that. And case in hand, Dean Lombardi pulling me aside. Much has been said about my relationship with Wayne Simmons. It's still strong. Braden Shen, he goes, Futes, we're moving Shenner and your son, Wayne Simmons. And by the way, I'm throwing in a second-round pick to make sure the deal gets done, and we're getting Mike Richards. Okay? My initial emotions are devastated from a personal standpoint, because I love Simmer. I just built this relationship to get Shenner on board. I really, truly felt they were going to become the players they are today. But Mike Richards at the time was Captain Canada and one of the hardest, most competitive players to play against in the world. And that's exactly what we needed. And you know what? It's easy to say now because we won 2 cups with Mike Richards, but you forget about what you gave up because you had to give something to make your team better and give them a better chance to win. And that's why right now I give credit to Brad Trelving. He's answering the ingredients that a Daryl Sutter team needs. He's getting ahead of the curve. And I love what Bill Zito's doing, because he wants them to be the more relevant team. And there's been a pretty relevant team in Florida for a couple of years, and it hasn't been them. And if you talk to players around the league, as I know you do, Kyper, the one thing that's coming across is the 2 hardest teams to play against right now that you're not talking about on a given night, that you think about in a 7-game series right now, are the Florida Panthers and the Calgary Flames. And it's fun to watch. And both those guys have done an exceptional job. I thought the Sherrod price was high, but he's rewarding that team, and it'll pay dividends.
Hey, Foots, remind me on the Richards deal when it came down, because it speaks to who can get out there first. And, maybe you might have to overpay a tad, but you are in control by making those moves early, like Calgary and Florida. it must be a different feel than a Sunday night with your back against the wall.
Well, absolutely. And that's, some guys have put themselves in that position, Kyper. Actually, some guys get to not only make the mistake once, they get to stick around and try and solve their mistakes over and over again, which I'll never understand. But some guys, it's amazing to me. In our case, we were fortunate because we already knew we had Jonathan Quick in net, and that wasn't a question mark. And we had, Doughty and Kopitar. We had so many pieces, and we had that leadership core group. Like I said, Dustin Brown was wearing the C, and he arguably was our 10th best leader. So you had to reward that group, and they made it pay. And at the time, you're right, Kyper, we did it out because we had just hired Daryl Sutter, and Daryl Sutter didn't join us until Mike Richards was ready to go because at the time he was a little banged up. So we had time, and then we certainly had time. And down the stretch, we were fighting for our lives. So not only did you have Daryl Sutter come in, but every game was a playoff battle. So we weren't one of those teams that was so far ahead that they didn't know how to battle for their lives because everything was kind of gravy. We had to play playoff hockey every night just to get in. And when we did, we were so confident we were going to run over top of teams that it just happened. And that's the thing. It amazes me right now that there are teams that are out there that have gone all in for playoff positioning, or that this is their year to go and pushed all their chips in, and they don't have a goalie, or they've got a controversy going on because it's like it'd be like building the Blue Jays with this arsenal of offense, and then at the last second going, oh geez, we don't have any pitchers. We don't have a pitcher. It's just it's beyond me. I hope some of them get to figure and solve it out because there's some people I'd certainly like to see success and have Stanley Cup rings put on their fingers, but it's not the type of year, and obviously injuries happen and stuff like that, like what's going on with Vegas because they went all in on Laner. But you got to have Plan A and Plan B. And when I look at the teams right now that are battling for playoff lives, not just playoff berths, not just playoff survival, it's going to be a battle. And I mean, certain guys, I guarantee you, GMs, coaches go to bed at night and they put their head in the pillow and they have no problem sleeping thinking about that position. And there's other guys that probably need a couple bottles and maybe a little melatonin just to get to the next day wondering what's going to happen with that position. So in our case, I love Freddy. I love Ranto where he's at, but Freddy knows as well it's been an exceptional year that he's put forward, Vezina-like stats, but he's going to be judged on what he does in the playoffs as well.
We're speaking with Mike Fuda, senior consultant to general manager, Carolina Hurricanes, and number one hockey analyst at 6:30 with Carolyn Cameron.
Excuse me.
Oh, you mean surreal Feuds and Bourne?
Yes. Hey, I'm just going to plow ahead. Feuds, tell us how important relationships are behind the scenes in getting deals done, with the managers, AGMs, everyone in those sort of front office positions. How realistic is it that it makes a difference whether you like a guy or not? We sit here today talking about the Leafs and being like, boy, sure would be great to get Clutterbuck from the Islanders, or, what about Mayfield from the Islanders? And all of a sudden it's like, is Lou going to trade Kyle any help? How realistic is it that those relationships matter? Or is it always just trying to get the best players in any deal you can?
Well, the best general managers put those things aside. I mean, that's why Lou Lamoriello's in the Hall of Fame, and Lou Lamoriello isn't going to not. If the Leafs, they're probably going to have to overpay to deal with a team like that. Sure. But if it's going to make the Islanders better, Lou Lamoriello's not going to be about holding his nose and saying, I don't like the way my things ended for me. And that's just a fact. And that's the way it should be. If guys are doing that, then they shouldn't be in the position. And the relationships are huge. I mean, that was one of the things I felt was such a benefit for me because much like Mark Hunter, we were so entrenched in the Ontario Hockey League and the Hockey Canada programs that we had coached. Like I had coached Jeff Carter and Mike Richards. God, that's a long time ago. So when you were asked about it, you weren't guessing what the character was going to be like, right? And you rely on your resources. It's like Brad Treliving, that not only is the Toffoli trade paying off because Tyler Toffoli is a good player, but there is no question you know what you're getting in the player. I mean, he probably has eight former teammates in the locker room. He's got a former coach. There's so many different resources, so there's not going to be that, is he going to fit in the room? Is Evander Kane going to fit in my room in Edmonton? right? There's different questions that are asked from different ways. If you've got people that know the player, like some of the players, obviously, if somebody's going to ask me about Mark Giordano, it's going to take me 3 hours to answer the question, but you're going to get, there's been a lot of history, but it's there for everybody to see what the integrities and the intangibles that Mark brings to the table. Are you getting Mark Giordano right now, the Norris Trophy winner? No, you're not. Okay, but you draw back his minutes, you put him in a team that actually plays a system, and this guy's going to score, his minutes. You're going to get the intangibles and the warrior factor that are, they're undeniable. What you're getting in the character, and when you draw him back, I think now you're getting. If somebody's traded, the problem is you get a team, and it's not. I mean, every Kyper, that's too. At a deadline, you got sellers trying to sell the players at their best, and buyers trying to buy them at their worst. And you got to come to a happy medium. I mean, but in the case of someone like Gio, clearly they're going to ask for a ransom in Seattle. They need to ask for a ransom in Seattle. But on the other end of it, you got to realize where he's going to fit in. He's a second power play unit guy who's going to still kill penalties, and he's just going to bring the intangibles off the roof. So you got to know what you're getting as well.
Factor in, Foots, that we've had a pandemic here that's put a tremendous squeeze on owners financially. And all these contending teams that are looking for help now in the next few days have to go back to their owners and say, oh, by the way, we're going to retain half of the contract to send another player to help them win a Stanley Cup. That can't be easy as well.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, again, I think I realize now, and it's nothing against Carolina because I'm just seeing it firsthand, and I'll be able to give you a better answer on Monday at around 3:00. But with Mr. Anschutz in Los Angeles, there was never any questions, right? The big deals and the big money, you had to call them and explain it, but there was never even a yellow caution sign. It was always green light. And if it doesn't work out, you're held accountable and you lose your job, right? Or in some cases, or in some cases, you just get to keep your job and make the same mistakes all over again. But it's just one of those things that
it's part of life right now.
Well, it is, Kyper, but I think these guys also realize, certainly in some of these Canadian markets, like I look at, like you see Vancouver now after what they've been put through, to see all these positives now. It'd be pretty hard to, not make that push for the last playoff spot, given what your fan base has gone through, regardless of the financial situation. There's other places that are going to have to look at it because their buildings are still not full. And again, there's going to be some tough decisions made. Just put it that way.
Yeah, it's
but it's a factor, Kyper. It's 100% a factor. Money matters to these guys. A lot of them have lost so much money that it matters more than else. But once that competitive nature, and they get in and see their building filled, and they see their fan base just dying. Toronto's going to be filled no matter what, but your fan base is just dying for that next piece, and they're dying for that shot at the parade. And it's pretty hard to turn your back on that.
How much do you consider teams around your team and how to beat them? Is it simply make the best team, put together the best team you can, or do you say, hey, we're going to have to go through, the Capitals who are physical, so maybe we need more physicality? Do you focus on yourself or look at who you're going to be playing?
Well, I think you focus on yourself. You got to be careful getting caught up overpaying for somebody because you think he's going to be in a lineup that you might face.
Yeah.
But I just think it's common sense to look at the physicality, the teams you're possibly going to play, and you look at the teams that have succeeded in the past. We were overkill with Los Angeles, but you can do things without giving up your skill to make your team harder to play against. Like Tampa Bay did it. They didn't get rid of their skill. They just added some meat for the playoff runs, because it's one thing to beat a team on one night. It's one game to beat, to win 16 games in 2 months. So you've got to give yourself that kind of depth where one injury isn't going to change your entire picture, right? Like you can't put it that way. Like in Philadelphia, you lose Ryan Ellis. That's a big hit, but it shouldn't. The old turnip truck shouldn't fall over when you lose one player. That's why you see the teams that win. They get bigger, they get stronger, they don't sacrifice their skill, they get great goaltending, and they play really hard. They play real hard physical hockey. St. Louis did it. We did it. Chicago did it. The teams that have been Pittsburgh, in the playoffs, they play hard physical hockey. They muck it up. So the teams that win, there's always been that one common team. You know, the Harlem Globetrotters have never won a Stanley Cup, a team that plays that style hockey. You got to be ready to play defense. You got to be able to win anyways, and you got to be able to still go in the alleys and play that mucky style when it happens.
One more before we let you go, Mike, and that is where this trade market today, the inventory available, where does it rank in other ones that you've experienced? And we know you've experienced a lot here, just in terms of, I like some of the names out there and they can help, but it gets so overrated and they get so hyped up. I mean, not a lot of game breakers or game changers, but serviceable players are still out there. But what are your thoughts about this year's selections out there?
Well, obviously, the big piece in Philadelphia is a game changer, in my opinion. Whoever gets him is going to be getting a special player. After that, there's a lot of really good players. I mean, I think it's going to be really hard to trade players with term right now. Like make hockey deals for a player with X player, because I think, and I mentioned this with Bourne the other night, I think if I'm a team that's buying and I'm getting another team's first round pick as part of a deal, I want to know exactly where that slot is, right? I don't want to give a team a great player and put them on a 10-game run and all of a sudden the 15th pick is the 28th pick. I mean, those are deals that you do on the floor so you know exactly what your asset's going to be.
Right.
But it'll be interesting. I mean, there's some really good players. I think there's going to be a lot of movement. I think some teams are going to start to try and get ahead of it and say, as did Florida, and say, okay, this is where we're at now. And you know what? I've been enjoying this conversation so much. I think I'm in Niagara Falls. I tell you right now, I am nowhere near Sportsnet.
Hey.
But anyways, on top of that,
Hey.
it's Kyper. It's going to be fun. There's too many teams too close to not make moves. Whether it's the juicy blockbuster, I mean, there might be one or two of those. But I think everybody involved should be looking at a way, giving their team a little nod. And I look at this. I look at the trade like the Savard trade, right? Did Savard, at the end of the day, was he worth exactly the package they gave up for him? I don't think from a hockey standpoint, you're going to say, no, he wasn't. But the impact that had in the dressing room, we don't know, because the team immediately saw a great piece coming in, saw that the organization was all in acquiring him, and they were rewarded with a Stanley Cup. So you can't just judge. I mean, and then as Berkey would say, there were 15 other teams that might have made moves that weren't rewarded. But if you just sit on your hands when you've got a team that's that close and don't reward them, I just think that leaves a lot to be desired.
Hey, do you know that you've spoken more on our segment here today than you have all year at 6:30 on Sportsnet Central?
There's short segments there.
Well, it's different when you're surrounded by all the all-stars there. You know,
Yeah.
Here I'm so comfortable with the real Kyper and Bourne that I can just be myself. And plus, I'm not staring at 8 different cameras wondering which one I'm supposed to look at wearing a bunch of makeup. I'm just being myself, which is pretty good.
You are on the A team here, I can tell you that.
100%.
Thanks for
I
doing
believe
this.
Okay,
Mike
we'll
Fuda,
see you tonight, Bourne.
Carolina.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Futes.
Wow, he was good.
I mean, that's
Some really
an interview.
good insight into that side of the trades, which I really enjoyed.
What do you think of the idea of getting a guy to reward the team who's spent the whole year getting close?
I like it.
You do?
I do, and I've been there, and it's a shot in the arm in the room.
Yeah. I like the idea that the Savard thing, maybe, his contribution wasn't worth the package, but plugging a hole and knowing that the team was taking, doing everything they could, having value.
We got time to assess the trade with Florida right now?
Not a chance.
We could do it if you want.
What time's our next guest?
So, I mean, you mentioned you make trades thinking about a guy that you may have to go up against. And
Yeah.
Ben Sherratt, Florida. They beat the Toronto Maple Leafs to Ben Sherratt. Did you know that?
The Leafs were trying
Yes.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's Ben Sherratt, who has the secret sauce 12 months ago, how to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs with Montreal. The Ben Sherratt that ragdolled their top goal scorer.
Yeah, so you think the Florida saw that and liked the, all right, you can play against Matthews in the playoffs?
Yes.
All right, we'll throw you out there.
Yeah. And you've played them and you know how to beat them and you know what they like and what they don't like and how to get under their skin. absolutely the thought.
Counterpoint, way too much for Ben Sherratt.
Ben Sherratt will help them. Is he a game changer? Absolutely not. But Ben Sherratt will help Florida more than David Savard helped Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
because
Florida had a bigger need.
There was Hedman. There was Ryan McDonough.
Yeah.
There was Chernak. There was
Ruda and Sergachev. Yeah.
So, Ben Sherratt has a bigger role, I think, on Florida moving forward, but that was a hell of a price.
First rounder, fourth rounder, and a prospect.
If we were sitting here today in the other world where I said that the Toronto Maple Leafs make this trade, what would your reaction be to this?
Pick a guy. Ronnie Hirvonen.
Yeah, Ronnie Hirvonen.
Giordano isn't a Toronto Maple Leaf yet because
that's the
to
package.
Mike Fuda's point is Ron Francis thinks, oh my gosh, if Sherratt went for that, then I can get something similar. He's not getting a first rounder for Giordano, nor does Kyle Dubas want to give that up. He's got to wait this out and watch that price to fall. I don't think there's a team out there that will give the Seattle Kraken a first rounder for Mark Giordano. Mark Giordano should be on your third pair. He cannot get up and down the ice, and you cannot trade him, Seattle, like he's still a Norris Trophy. And I think Mike Fuda mentioned that as well.
Right.
It's just not happening.
Just, the fit's tough, right? He's another left shot. I have some scenarios where the Leafs trade for a left shot guy because we're going to talk Lindholm later in the show as well. But, yeah, if it is for Giordano, you're right. It's got to be third pair. You're probably pairing him with someone who's defense first, whether that's Lyubushkin or Hall or someone like that. Like I heard about reuniting him with Brody. It's like, I think you need Brody Thrive. We'll talk about this all later.
Well, did you hear, Ceravelli was on the morning show today, and he was saying that he believes that the Giordano's first interest or priority is Toronto.
Yeah.
So his family's here.
Well,
it's coming home.
Let me ask you guys something. How many times was Mike Fuda asked about Mark Giordano on this show today? 0?
Yeah.
Sure likes him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's other teams out there who are pretty interested in Giordano. I know that Giordano would come here.
He'd be like a Nick Foligno where you look at. Well, I'm not saying it's going to be a disaster.
Okay. Wow.
I'm talking about
you're paying for some name and reputation,
character. You're taking another crack at grabbing those things,
a
including
captain type
hometown boy, family, what it means to you. Kyle likes that sort of stuff.
Sure does.
But it shouldn't come at a first and a fourth like it did Foligno.
Has he always liked that, though? Because it seems like it's been the last couple of years where he's really changed, like the Spezza, Simmons,
But I think
Thornton,
this has been an effort
Foligno.
for a pursuit of character. I think he felt like the earlier Leafs teams that didn't get through lacked
another
this,
one that hasn't won a cup.
Character in the room. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point, actually.
Another veteran who has won one.
Bringing these great character guys, Thornton.
But don't
Spezza,
overhype
Simmons.
Giordano.
Oh,
if and
we
when
would
he
never.
comes.
I would
No,
never do
are you
something.
kidding?
Are you
You
crazy?
lead the whole thing.
We got a contest before we get to Gordo. It's the rivalry train contest. 2 tickets to see the Leafs play the Habs in Montreal on Saturday night. What could be better than that, boys? Plus a round trip train ticket from Montreal to Toronto and a 1-night hotel accommodation. What you have to do is listen to our show, Real Kyper and Bourne, for a daily password. Enter it online at our contest page at sportsnet.ca/590. Today's password is Andersen. Andersen. Like Josh Anderson, I think, not Frederick Anderson. Andersen. This contest runs through Monday, March 21st. Must be 19 plus in Ontario to enter, boys.
Must have run out of Leaf player names.
It did. Yeah, there's only 20 of them.
Fast 40.
Oh, my God.
And then we got Gord Stellick after the break.
Stellictricity.
And he bets on where he's calling us from, a bowling alley.
We can have him in the studio now if he wants to come in. It's legal again.
Okay.
Someday.
I'll tell him to grab a brown shirt and get over here.
Get your Henley and come on in.
All right, Stellictricity after the break. You're listening to Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590, The Fan.
Feels like you're playing on easy mode.
Look out unless you want some elbow pie.
Ball harder.
Beautiful pass.
With Toronto Raptors basketball on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Grow your business online by building a digital storefront with simple e-commerce tools, supported by an e-commerce advisor. Apply for up to $2,400 in grants at canada.ca/digital-adoption. A message from the Government of Canada.
There are 25 Swedish words for snow. A Volvo is made to withstand all of them. Rigorously tested in Sweden's Arctic Circle, every Volvo is designed to handle even the harshest Canadian winters. So no matter the weather, Volvo's advanced safety technology is designed to help make sure you and your loved ones arrive safe and sound. Lease a 2022 Volvo XC60 Recharge plug-in hybrid from 3.49% and save $1,000. Conditions apply. Visit your local GTA Volvo retailer or volvocars.ca.
At the TA Appliance and Barbecues Home Show Savings Event, save on Electrolux washers and dryers, featuring new clean and care technology that help your clothes and fabrics last longer, reducing your impact on the environment. Exclusive Smart Boost technology premixes water.
This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
The clock is ticking towards the 2022 NHL trade deadline. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Real Kyper and Bourne. Let's welcome a guest who's experienced a few in the managerial role and one as an analyst as well. Gord Stellectricity coming to you from
my secret trade deadline studio, Kyper.
like a bat cave.
Kind of like that. Just, taking stuff, going in, out, just trying to stay on top of it. No, just stately Stellic Estates. That's it today. Just plain and simple.
You're like Alfred. You're not like Batman or Robin.
You're like my young Ward, Burt Grayson. Or Dick Grayson. Sorry, excuse me. Whatever. Burt Ward played Dick Grayson. Never mind. I digress.
That's okay. That's all right.
I'm lost.
Are you surprised that a team like Toronto's been this quiet when you've really found out in the last few weeks that their checklist or their wish list is far greater than one defenseman?
Well, they did get one defenseman, so I mean, that's and so far so good. It really has been as advertised, pretty plain and simple. But I've liked that. So given the cap considerations, given the commitment that Kyle Dubas has made to, this team and this strategy, and again for year number 5, whatever it is, heading in hopefully to a different playoff number 5 or playoff number 4, whatever it may be, where success is anticipated. No, I'm not too surprised.
Gord, how important do you think handedness is for defensemen? Because I hear the names that the Leafs are considering bringing in, and it's like, at the top end, it's Lindholm, left shot, Giordano, left shot, Middleton, left shot. You look at the Leafs D, Riley, Brody, Muzzin, Sandin, all left shots. Does it matter? Is it just a matter of it's priority to get good defensemen over worry about that sort of thing?
I think the latter, Justin. I mean, I heard you and Kippy talking about it earlier, and I know in a perfect world, and Mike Babcock, when he coached the Olympic team, you had a perfect world. You had your choice of the best defensemen that were Canadian born to put together. But I just think, and particularly those that play can do it in the playoffs as far as that goes. That the ability is first and foremost. And I'm not saying you can get maybe too carried away about the way they shoot. It is a factor, but I just think still skill's number one for me.
When we look at Toronto and Källgren tonight going in to start against Carolina, I personally think that if he has another good showing, then Kyle moves this moment forward on with the thought that he's got 3 goaltenders the rest of the way. But if there's a poor performance there tonight, do you think he looks at other options?
Well, and they have one more game on Saturday, and you really don't like to decide it just on a game by game basis. But in some ways, because the goaltending just kind of unraveled as a situation that could need addressing. Where a couple months ago we're talking about Jack Campbell's new contract and going to the All-Star game. So I think Kyper, what he's found is like that game show, Let's Make a Deal, that he has a door number 3. That door number 3 now is it Garrett Sparks, who had the great shutout his first game and then never it never really happened. Let's hope that's not the case. But I think he feels that he's got at least another option of a body, and hopefully a decent body that he can put in.
Do you think there's something, does it say something about the Leafs that when they seem to need to step up and play a certain way, so, Källgren's in net and Matthews is out, or Joseph Woll's in net, they're able to find this other gear and play this way and win hockey games. They won with Woll in net too. Does it say something about them that they have that, yet they're not able to do it with any real consistency?
Well, I think Kaskaskia would have liked to seen that.
Good point.
When they were greasing the skids on Mike Babcock back then. But it's funny, Justin, and I mean it's just the dumbest stat, like what their record is when Austin Matthews is in the lineup. That's like the idiocy years ago about got to keep Matt Sundin out because they're winning in the playoffs without him. You don't need to put him back in the lineup. And,
right.
So it's commendable. In a lot of ways, it's commendable, and it's and again, you look at the team's record. I mean, their record's great. Their record's great, but you just I think we were talking about it last time that it's just kind of like they're building this great house, and then all of a sudden, like the toilet gets plugged or the roof leaks a little bit or stuff. Just you can never get. Geez, we can't get it. We got the house. There it is. We can see it, and then just these little things start coming apart, whatever, or just start falling, niggling details that we can't firm up. But the one has been. You're right about certain situations that when I don't know whether you want to call it adversity or what you want to call it, but they've been able to able to come up big, which is a total contrast in big games in the playoffs where they just flat out needed to come up big and haven't.
Wasn't a secret that the Montreal Canadiens were holding out for a David Savard package for Ben Sherratt. I was really surprised that Florida bid on it. But is that one of those trades where it made a guy like Kyle Dubas go, well, that just made my job that much harder?
Yeah. I think, and I heard you talking earlier about Florida, like, looking at the Atlantic Division opponents they could play, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example. And I mean, depth on D. Who would have thought the Florida Panthers are a deeper team on D than the Toronto Maple Leafs? Like, we understood about Huberdeau and Barkov and, those kind of guys from before, and if it all comes together, and you thought that Hoffman and Dadonov might be a part of it, but they've of course left. So it's funny. Florida's kind of rolling the dice for now, and draft picks. They've got decent young players out there. You can't get Owen Tippett in the lineup, and they got a young goaltender in Spencer Knight. So they can basically do. They have the currency to give up draft picks, and they're maybe like the Leafs blew a lot of currency on Nick Foligno and have used a lot of currency in trying to win in the present. I don't knock that, because that's what you got to try to do. So Florida's kind of new to the game, so they have a little bit more in their bank.
So how much stock will you put in tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes and Saturday against the Nashville Predators? Any performances you see? Because it's crazy to me with goaltending. It comes down to, let's see what the kid can do. If he plays a couple of good games, same with Decor. Like, if Liljegren has a couple of good games, does it change their mind that maybe they don't need another guy? How much stock do you put in just a couple of games before the deadline?
Well, if you go on a couple of games, you could be broadcasting pretty soon. Okay, that's the guy, because you have you have your pro scouts, and I'll give you an example, okay, just before, and I will come back to that because I do think they need a D. And, you look last year was a tough year to scout because of the unique circumstances of the season, the way it was stepped up, just playing in divisions and that. And, you kind of look back and you go, as far as the scouting goes, Nick Foligno was really starting to erode when they got him. You were getting Nick Foligno, the package that you think of and remember in its entirety. But you see this year with Boston, he's hit that point where whatever it is, he's kind of on the downside. And again, last year they gave a lot up for him, and I know he got hurt, and there were extenuating circumstances because of that, but you gave a lot for nothing. Anyway, that's water under the bridge. But that's more what I mean about Justin, about just your scouts have to be a real handle on what can this player do, where what can he do for our team, where would he fit in for our team, how should we evaluate him and value him. So to get back to your question, I still think they need somebody on D. I still think another depth defenseman, and there seemed to be a decent number out of them. To say it's a buyer's market, I wouldn't say that's accurate yet, but there certainly are a number, the Justin Bourne names or whatever, those kind of names out there, if they might be interested.
If in fact there isn't anything out there of significance for Kyle Dubas in this market, with Sammy breathing down his neck, would doing nothing be okay for him?
Well, he did make one move, and I don't think he feels
Labushkin enough.
You'd like to have more, but you don't need to make a move just for the sake of making a move. So I will say, Kyper, it could be enough. And I mean, it's all going to come down to the playoffs. I mean, that's going to be the whole evaluation, that you could add 5 great picks right now and give up your draft picks for the next 10 years. But if you lose in the first round, it's brutal. And then if they just win one round, just with this one trade, it's like a mini Stanley Cup again, and all is forgiven. I mean, it's weird. It's that cut and dried and that simple. So I don't think he feels the pressure. I think last year he felt the pressure. I think last year they wanted a bit more of a name and got that in Foligno. I don't think there's that same kind of pressure. I know you could, kind of what Calgary's done. You could go stronger on your fourth line and maybe your third line, and that's another kind of option. But I don't think he feels that pressure, Kyper.
What's going to unfold with the Leafs' fourth line right now? I feel like the Wayne Simmons thing is coming to a head a little bit. Where he got to 1,000 games, was scratched. Recently, him and Spezza have not been overly effective. Do you think they need someone like a Cal Clutterbuck or a Tyler Mott or someone come in with a little younger, more energy on that fourth line? Or do you think it's going to be, this is the way the Leafs are going about it, and let's just see how they do?
Well, I like the Clutterbuck name, but it's funny. Matt Martin just didn't fit here, right?
Yeah.
It was weird, just that the kind of thing he did. And I don't know if maybe at that time, because the line he was on was awfully quick. And, he just had a hard time keeping up. It wasn't your regular kind of fourth line that he was playing on. But again, you like the sandpaper, you like the grit. I just kind of look what St. Louis did a few years ago, that when it all came together and they didn't have, Hart Trophy guys, but they had 15 different forwards, and there was Craig Berube could move some guys in and out. You could have a spice like a Nick Robertson, a spice like a Wayne Simmons. I mean, there's different things they offer and give you different alternatives to put it all together in the playoffs. I mean, that's kind of the way I see the Leafs right now. And it doesn't, in a lot of cases, that's like you're sort of trying to put a certain ingredient to make it taste right rather than having a sure thing. So maybe it's not the best way to go, but at least you have more options.
The biggest similarity between the Leafs and St. Louis would be going to your fourth goaltender on the depth chart to try to win right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, who knows? I mean, keep in mind, Matt Murray wasn't that much different. He just had a solid AHL stats, but he had to come up and win instantly with Pittsburgh in a lot of ways before you would have expected. But you're not wrong about that. I mean, I hate going back decades ago, but I do it from time to time because people love the name Mike Palmateer, and Mike Palmateer back in his day was a similar situation that the Leafs were just desperate for a goaltender in the Darryl Sittler, Lanny McDonald era at that time, and were trying different players out. And of course, the infamous Mike Palmateer, Mr. Gregory, your goaltender problems were over. And for about 5 years, he had a really great run. And that's kind of where we are now when we're talking about bringing up a guy that nobody heard about a week ago. I mean, unless you were really following the Leafs, nobody had talked about. And now we're talking about, if he plays well tonight, might he get starts in the playoffs if Jack Campbell isn't healthy?
Yeah. So how does it make you feel if you're the GM of the Leafs and you're watching Florida get Sherratt and clear out room and be rumored to be in on more? We just had Mike Fuda on, who said that he believes in rewarding teams for a good year, and Carolina's in first, so I got to believe they're doing something. Do you feel like there's an arms race and you can't afford to be complacent based on your opponents, or is it just purely introspection, looking at your own team and going from there?
I think the latter, Justin. I mean, you get it's like getting jealous when you hear friends of yours bought a certain stock and they're making all the money in the world, whatever. And then of course, 5 years later, they're broke, but whatever, like you just gotta focus because it's so sexy. It's so sexy to make additions and you get such a splash. And, even now in Buffalo, it wasn't let's face it, the Ryan O'Reilly trade was a horrible trade, what it was predicated on and why he left, and St. Louis did win a Stanley Cup. And you got the crap beat out of you, and you should. But at least when the deal was made, Tage Thompson's starting to come along. Now the Leafs aren't there. That's not the Leafs. That was the Leafs 5 years ago. But I just mean it's sometimes whatever you got to make the best of whatever the circumstances are. And in the Leaf case, they don't have currency to do a lot of things trade deadline wise. Unfortunately, they did when everybody was on rookie level contracts. That was fun. That was great. Bring them on. Bring on Patrick Marleau. Then you get John Tavares. Then whoops, we got all kinds of problems. Guys are on their second contract. But when those heady days early, and that's why it's important to have a couple of players that are decent, competent players that are on their entry-level deals for cap reasons. Those that, you're not playing like fifth-line, press box, odd fourth-line players.
Is there a part of you that could see Kyle Dubas saying, if I don't get the big fish now, I could get one in the offseason and take another crack at this next year?
Well, off season, we go back to what determines the off season. I think it's understood that if they don't have that playoff success, that I don't know what it is, but they have to rethink the whole thing. And so it might mean you're seeing a big fish go for a mid-sized fish coming back. That's what you're looking at. You got a lot of big fish. You got three as big a fish as anybody has certainly salary-wise in the NHL. But there's some in Chuck Fletcher's case in Philadelphia, despite the president saying he had a blank credit card, which makes no sense because he needs cap space. He doesn't need money. But, he can kind of look at it and say, okay, maybe I'm going to move Provorov or maybe I'm going to move Konechny, but that'll be in the offseason. But, in Dubas's case, the offseason's predicated on what he does or doesn't do now and what this team does in the playoffs.
Gord, you're our big fish on this show.
I'm big.
You're like the big kahuna.
Thanks, Moondoggy.
Gord Stellick, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gord. I think the lead in and the walk out of that, Sammy and I looking at each other going, what are these guys talking about?
I don't know.
He call you Moondoggy?
Yes,
what
he
the
did.
hell is that? Is that an old show
I
reference?
hope so.
Okay.
I really do. I really hope so.
Well, now I hope it's not. Just his own little pet name for you.
So Kyle would have to be really comfortable if he thinks I don't have to blow my brains out in the next 4.5 days. What do you think, Sammy? And then I asked Gord, because he knows this market as well as anybody, if he does nothing from here on in, would he take heat for it, or would it be
yes.
Gord Stellick's theory of, well, let's just see how they do at the end of the year before we decide?
What?
He'll get roasted.
Are you kidding me? There's no way they can do that. They have to. You can't, maybe it's not Giordano, maybe it's not Marc-Andre Fleury, maybe it's not whatever. But you got to make a couple moves.
You imagine there'd be literal torches and pitchforks at his house if he did a press conference on the 22nd and was like,
I believe
we
in
like
this
our
team.
group.
I believe in this
I think
team.
Peter's a 9-10 guy over 300 games.
Yeah, we're talking about my Joker origin story
Wasn't
again.
there a team that drafted a dead guy?
Yeah.
You ever hear that?
Well, the Buffalo drafted a fake Japanese player, Fuji.
See, Kyle's
Fujimoto.
better trading
Taro Fujimoto.
trading for one of those guys than doing nothing. That's my point.
Yeah,
right?
we got Fujimoto from the Sabres.
You can make up a guy, you could trade for a dead guy, but you can't do nothing.
There's no way you can do nothing.
Yeah.
And I think he knows that. Listen, maybe he has some more intel on what his offseason looks like, regardless of what happens in April and May here. But I think he has to know that the writing's on the wall. First of all, if he doesn't do anything and they crash out, that's a terrible look. But at least if you went out there and you tried to do the move again, say it's Giordano, say whatever it is you do, at least you have that to be able to point to when you're in that meeting with the ownership being like, or with whoever being like, oh, I'll see, I tried, as opposed to, I believe in this group that's never got anything done.
Are you guys buying into my theory that Shalgren's start tonight can go a long way on what he thinks about his goaltending scenario going into the weekend?
No.
So if he plays well tonight and wins,
you can't trust it.
Sorry. You still go out and get another goalie?
You have to. If you trust 2 starts of an AHL guy.
You think you can trust Shalgren on 2 starts or 3 starts?
I don't know. I listened to his interview with, I think, Elliott on the Friday before, and
yeah, I know.
He thinks he's got 4 good goalies right now.
It's interesting watching, my time with the Marlies. Kyle had been there for a year or more around then, and Sheldon came in the same year as I did. And watching them grow to figure out which guys are good enough to go up and play and which aren't. That 2015-16 season, I want to say 17 Marlies went up. Everyone went to play for the Leafs, and it was like, this guy's going to get embarrassed. And they would go up there and be okay and hold their own, because the gap is significant. But for a game or two, guys can fake it. Mm-hmm. You can get up there and the game goes well and you're all full of adrenaline and extra focus. So I think there's this element where they believe that the gap is not that big for some of these guys, and you could plug in more AHL guys than others think.
And Wall today was playing for the Marlies. They have an afternoon game today, left the game with injury. Got run today.
I just think, as minor as a goaltending move that you think that could still come, the underlying message in all of this is that if you do anything at all, then you admit defeat on the Peter Mrazek signing.
They did it with Richie.
You got to admit defeat.
No. This one's way worse than Richie.
Oh, it is.
Way
more
worse.
impactful in a negative way
Yes.
and longer
Like-
and more expensive.
That's a signing that if you get wrong on other teams, you lose your job.
I don't
and
know.
I
This type
don't-
of signing is a miss all the time, isn't it?
No, yeah, but not in this scenario.
Yeah,
Not
not
when
with the
you're
pressure this
not
high.
with Matthews and Marner in their 7th year and having career years, and you left the goaltending situation vulnerable, and then you overpay for a guy on a cap that is around your neck, choking you.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think Kyle is willing to wave the white flag on in the next few days.
I'd love to go back to when the Mrazek deal happened and remember who the available goaltenders were exactly, because it was
They weren't.
yeah,
It sucked.
right.
He picked what he thought was the best of a bad crop.
Yeah,
But Freddy signed after Mrazek.
But he didn't
no?
have to. He didn't also have to
Give
give
3
him
years.
the 3rd year,
right.
which is the one
If it
that's
is a yeah, no.
that's the one that's keeping you from moving him on.
Yeah, people say, yeah, we'll take Mrazek for next year. We're not going to be great next year. Sure. 2 years. Anyway, we should break so we can get to Bill Lindsay.
We got Bill Lindsay from the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, talk a little cats.
777
Yeah, we'll get his
NHL
thoughts
games.
on Ben Sherratt. And, is Ben Sherratt second place for Jacob Chikrin? Because I got some thoughts on still believing that Florida picked the wrong guy.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm ready to talk D. I have
I-
Leafs D pairs all drawn
I
up.
want to get into that and so much more still after the break. So Bill Lindsay, we'll talk Florida Panthers, Bill Sherratt, and more D with Justin Bourne. You're listening to Real Kyper and Bourne and watching on YouTube channel, Sportsnet's 590 The Fan. Nice, eh? We got our 6
Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Bill Lindsay, former National Hockey League player and now Panthers color analyst, will be joining us in a few minutes. But before we go to Bill, just my thoughts on Ben Sherratt.
Yes.
And it was first rounder, a third rounder, and a prospect who they think they like, a mid prospect. But how much more would you have needed to go and get a guy like Jacob Chychrun? I think if they threw in another first rounder, you would have been in the ballpark. Two first rounders, a third rounder, a prospect. I'm just looking at this ask for Ben Sherratt.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get as dynamic as a player. I know he's a shutdown guy and he's a specialist when it comes to that sort of stuff. But you've given up so much now for 20 games and a first round, and then you watch him walk out the door. Would a first rounder got into a different conversation for a guy that you could have had for $4.5 million for four more Stanley Cup tries?
And you know what's so wild is like in the NBA, how common it is to look at someone like a Chychrun level contributor and say, that's a top, whatever you think, top 30 D-man in the NHL. 2 first-round picks, a prospect, a fourth, whatever. In the NBA, it's like 3 first-round picks. We got to get that guy. Like he'll be with us for 4 more seasons. It's a no-brainer. It's honestly like the hockey culture thing that we don't do it. I think that's a great point.
I know, but we're also talking about 3 first rounders for a guy that can control a whole game by himself.
Oh, it's a no-brainer to me that you would want to do that for a guy like Chychrun. And I am curious if the Leafs would think about that based on how long you get him for.
Yes,
at
and
cheap
and Arizona was they weren't wrong in putting a lot of value on that, especially when you consider where the salaries have gone for defense. It is crazy. It's completely asinine. And we're going to get into Lindholm from Anaheim in a conversation a little later on how we see that scenario playing out. But when you look at the Darnell Nurses of the world and Seth Jones at $9 million, Jacob Chychrun at $4.5.
That's
is just something that I think the Florida Panthers should have sweetened the pot up and gone after him.
Yeah, that does seem like a missed opportunity. Interesting to ask more about this here. You go ahead.
Have we got Bill Lindsay? No, Sam's going to work on him.
Oh, I thought we did, which is why I was queuing him up.
So I don't know. And we know he's hurt, and we know that they talked about 2 to 4 weeks Chychrun being out, and whether or not that'll scare any potential customers between now and Monday at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
But the price is not going to drop, and they can move him in the offseason.
When I hear you talking about that, and I think about it for the Leafs, I think of what Arizona would want. So let's say it's 2 first rounders and a top, prospect type guy.
And Nick Robertson.
To me, is it not Sandin that they would want?
I think you can convince them otherwise.
Because you don't want it to be Sandin.
Yeah, no, you don't. And Sandin now has really, he's gone from prospect to player.
Yeah. And he's up there, and Lyubushkin is like 11.5 hits per 60 or something. Sandin's one of their more physical Ds, way behind Lyubushkin, but he's starting to throw the body. As he gets older, he'll get better at that element too.
Yeah, Leafs don't have that type of.
No, he's never going to be a bruiser, but.
No, but I'm just saying to get a Chychrun, I'm not sure that the Leafs have what it takes to even
make it
contemplate that. Okay, Bill Lindsay is about to join us, and I don't know, where do we start? Ben Sherratt. Bill, first of all, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Everything well, guys?
Yeah, everything's good. A lot of people like our producer, Sammy, waiting for the Leafs to pull the trigger on something. Bill Zito gets the job done. How important was it to shore up that blue line?
It was a must. You look, they were trying all kinds of different positions to try and fill that 6D role. And we got plenty of right shooting defensemen. We were in desperate need of a left shooting defenseman that had some veteran experience. And you're able to get Sherratt and kind of shore up that blue line. That was priority number one going in with all the talent that you have. The goal scoring doesn't seem to be a problem. But on defense, you needed someone with experience that was a left-handed shot. Brandon Montour's been really good this season, but he's played with a ton of partners. If you look, he's had Carlson, he's had Yolevi, Lindbohm, who's just come over from the KHL that we signed. But Montour's had to play with all kinds of different partners this year. Maybe Sherratt comes in, fills that gap, and Montour and Sherratt hopefully build some chemistry up, and then that 5-6D pairing is solidified for the Panthers. That was something that you needed. You needed depth at the defensive position. Bill Zito's aggressive. There's an opportunity with this Panther team salary cap-wise that won't ever be there like this in the future. It is time to go in. Bill Zito recognizes that they have an opportunity of a lifetime, and he's making moves to make it all happen.
Well, I'm excited to get to ask you about a couple players on this roster. There's some guys I'm not overly familiar with, but some that we all are very familiar with. How has Joe Thornton fared as a Florida Panther this season?
Thornton's been good. When we needed him, we used him. He's been really important in the dressing room. He's a coach that's a player.
Right.
He's played so many years in the league, so you have someone in the locker room that can really help these young guys go through an 82 game season, knows what it's about, and he doesn't mind. He's played so many games and played for so many years that the spot duty doesn't bother him. He wanted to come down here, be part, and he's never won a Stanley Cup. He felt he had a really good chance here. Joe Thornton has fit in well. He's been everything that you want in the dressing room. And the product that you see on the ice for the Panthers that was a big problem in the past was the locker room and the chemistry in the locker room. It never really evolved. But bringing in Patrick Hornquist last year, Joe Thornton, a lot of what you're seeing on the ice this year is the chemistry off the ice. These guys play for each other. They're excited. They get along well. So they're playing for the guy beside them. They're afraid to let him down. There's a real compete level when you have to play because there's so many good players. When you get on the ice, you got to compete for your ice time, but that's a healthy competition. So Joe Thornton coming in, he's been pleasant in all areas, and the coaching staff and Andrew Burnett, a young coach that he's coming in, Andrew Burnett relies on players like Joe Thornton and Patrick Hornquist for a lot of advice and maybe making some moves. And what you think about this, he'll run it by those players and try and kind of get the temperature of the dressing room and what they're thinking.
Bill, we're looking at the Atlantic Division, and of course we see Florida, Tampa, and Toronto. And up until a week ago, there was some thoughts that maybe even Toronto had a chance to win the division. But the sense is they will meet each other at some point. So we look at Toronto and we look at Florida, two teams, as you said, capable of putting the puck in the net, but they struggle a little defensively. And goaltending is always a question. And I guess for Leaf fans, at least they're not paying $10 million a year to doubt it. But for one of their goalies, but outside of the fact that Florida is a lot more physical, what are the similarities if these two teams match up in the first round?
They both can skate. They get off the rush. It would be high flying. It would be back and forth. There's a lot of tempo. Both those teams like to push. They like to play with pace, like to generate scoring chances off the rush. I'll give the Leafs credit, Matthews and Marner, the way they forecheck with Bunting in that line. It's incredible how hard that line forechecks and is able to create opportunities, kind of grinding it out with the cycle plays. That's what kind of impresses me most about the top players. When you see Toronto, when you look at the Panthers side of it, they like to close gaps. They like to have back pressure, and then they love to go in transition and try and beat you off the rush. They're really dynamic off the rush. The passing plays, it's got a lot of talent, and they'll wear you down with the four lines. They like to utilize the four lines and keep the top guys around 18, 19 minutes and the bottom guys around 12, 13 minutes and just kind of suffocate you throughout the course of the game. And when you look at the Leaf side, that's kind of the same plan. They want to play with depth and they want to use everyone. And it seems on both teams that a lot of players have defined roles. They know exactly where they belong and what they want to do on the ice. So it all does really come down in a large portion to keeping the puck out of your net. How do you defend? Goaltending, the Leafs power play has been better than the Panthers. The Panthers starting to pick it up recently, but yeah, if you went in that series, it would be high flying. There would be a lot of electricity, and the goaltenders would be under a lot of duress. And who would make the saves? That would probably determine the series.
And that's, I am curious about that confidence with Bobrovsky. Is it there in Florida? Do they have that this guy can be great at the most important times?
He's been better this year, and they're managing his ice time and trying to keep him fresh down the stretch. But he's in a much better place mentally than he has been the first couple of years. He had a kid, and even it's strange to say this, but maybe having a baby really helped him out because he puts a lot of pressure on himself. He works. The dedication and work ethic is never a question mark because it's always there. But mentally, just between the ears, he's always thinking about the game, kind of tweaking things with his equipment. What can I do here? He's kind of settled down with all that this year. And when he comes to the rink, it's been a more focused Bobrovsky, and the team in front of him's been good to help him out. So he's been good, and what you notice with the high-flying offense, the Panthers still do turn over the puck quite a bit, and they will give up some grade A scoring chances. But Bobrovsky this year has made the saves at the important times in games, which is critical for this team. He might give up 3, 4, but when the game's on the line, he seems to be at his best. So that does give this Panther team some confidence. But it is up to him. He has to be the guy once the playoffs arrives, and that's just basically the bottom line. It's Bobrovsky, and you got to roll with it. He has to perform.
So I mentioned it earlier, but how physical can the Florida Panthers get against the Toronto Maple Leaf team? Could they pound them to a series win?
Yeah, with the Panthers. That's what you look at the pieces that they've added. They've got, when Ryan Lomberg's healthy, he's hurt right now, but Patrick Hornquist hits everything in sight. He likes to disrupt everything. Radko Gudas leads the league in hits. There's a physical element and a physical brand to this team that kind of filters up and down the lineup. Even Huberdeau is on pace to have over 100 hits this year. They'll play a physical brand of hockey, and they're at their best. When I watch them play, when there's all kinds of scrums and it becomes a very physical game, it kind of wakes this team up. And it gets them excited and kind of gets the juices flowing. The games they've lost, there hasn't been a physical aspect to the game. It's kind of going through the motions, not hitting the players. So this is a team that likes to play the body, and that is one area that Toronto I would be concerned about, because the speed of the Panthers and the way they forecheck and what they want to do, they will hit, and they will constantly do it, especially in a playoff series. So the Leafs, if you get into that physical style, they will try and pummel you as hard as you can.
We're speaking with Bill Lindsay, Panthers color analyst. I got one more for you, Bill, before we let you go. Can you tell Leaf Nation
no problem.
That Mason Marchment isn't that good and that he's just playing over his head? And, can you do that for Sammy?
Wow. What a story, Mason Marchment. You got to give Mason Marchment, and it's just credit to him. He's playing a little bit over his head. It's going to come back to reality, but even what he's been able to achieve, he's good. He's a really good, sound hockey player, and he's another one of those guys that is really, the scoring's come, but he was a fourth liner to begin with. And he learned to play the defensive side of the puck, and he learned that he had to hit and be physical if he wanted to stay in the lineup. And he's done all those things, and he had to bring energy, and all of a sudden the scoring touch has come along. So Mason Marchment, even if the scoring's not there, he's learned how to impact the game without even being on the score sheet. And that's just credit to him with his work ethic. He was struggling earlier in the year, had COVID, was hurt, and we had him on our pregame show. And he said, I'm not making any excuses. It's been tough coming back from COVID, from the injuries, but the way I've played, it's not up to my standard, and I'm going to be better. And he went out against Winnipeg and had 3 points, I believe, and a couple of goals. And I thought, oh, wow, this is the best game this guy's ever going to play in the NHL. It's not going to get better than this. And And then he just went on a torrid stretch with Lundell and Reinhart riding shotgun, but he makes it happen. He's good. He's over. I'll give the Leaf Nation. He's playing a little bit over his head. Will it continue? There will be a little bit of a return to the norm, but we got lucky in that one. We got a really solid character guy in Mason Marchment.
Outside of the Leafs and the Panthers, are the Tampa Bay Lightning, in your mind, still the team to beat?
You have to go through them, don't you?
Have to.
Yeah, with everything you have to. With Vasilevsky, you have to go through Vasilevsky at some point, and the guys winning back-to-back Stanley Cups, and Julian Brisebois filling the holes with Corey Perry, Belmar. It's what they do with the salary cap situation, and I know Kucherov, what they did last year, and everyone maybe had some problems, but still Kucherov's in, and they were able, Julian Brisebois and the talent that they developed within, that just kind of comes up and fill holes, and then some of the free agent signings. It's a team that's has the nucleus, has the superstars, and the role players that they've been able to find. They've been able to fill that third. They lost their whole third line last year.
Amazing.
This year, and they've been able to fill it with Corey Perry and Belmar and Maroon, and those guys just continue to click along. So at some point, at some time, you have to go through Tampa Bay to win the Stanley Cup. There's no way around it.
The race through the Atlantic. Hey, Bill, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thanks, Bill.
Sammy, you feel a little better? Mason Marchment will come down to earth.
Yeah, I don't think Sammy feels any better.
No, he is.
But Bill said it there, though. I've watched probably 6 or 7 Cats games so far this year. It's not even really the scoring, which is what I long for on the Leafs. It's just the
presence.
What he talked about, how he figured out to do stuff without scoring. That's kind of what, like, imagine him on the fourth line. Like, that's a guy that they would really, really love right now. They'd like that one back.
I'd like him with Tavares.
Yeah, I mean, that's nice, is that he can kind of move up and down. He had that versatility for you, a little bit of a physical element. Sometimes makes some questionable decisions, but he's
in terms of what? Doing dumb things?
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
Well, I don't
I like
mean,
when a guy does a dumb
penalties.
Oh, okay.
Like he has these lapses.
Yeah.
But
I like wire cross guys.
Yeah, just fritz out once in a while, deck someone.
I think it's important to have guys in your team that aren't afraid to get the wires crossed, and that's what it was nice to see Matthews do it.
Yeah.
That was a wire cross moment.
It was.
So we sent out a tweet about the what would you rather have, the Jack Campbell healthy or Freddy Andersen on the Leafs. There was a lot of responses about Jack Campbell. People are really putting the fact that he was hurt was the reason he was struggling, eh? People are banking on that. Think the Leafs are banking on that?
Yeah, I do.
He's fine. It was the rib. For 6 months.
No, my understanding is he played hurt for a long stretch.
How long we talking, Kip?
3 weeks.
It's not nothing. It's interesting, though, for sure.
And significant rib issue. Not
are we concerned about the rib issue going forward here?
Should heal. How long has he been out now?
It's got to be coming up on 2 weeks, so it's been 10
3
days.
weeks?
No. I don't know. It's been a couple weeks, we'll say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I imagine he'll still get a couple of weeks.
You think so?
Yes.
Shalgren or Anton Forsberg. Come on down.
I like the Forsberg idea. McKenna loves Forsberg. He was tweeting about him too last night.
Was he?
Yeah.
He also tweeted a picture of Peter Mrazek. Remember he said in our show how he plays with his right foot 6 inches in front of his left? It's really funny in visual form. It is very true.
So just going back in the Leafs PR tweets, it was March 10th that they tweeted that goaltender Jack Campbell will be out a minimum of 2 weeks due to a rib injury.
Was he out?
Prior to that?
Yeah, prior to that.
He didn't he make the start against the Squids? And then that's when that was the last one.
They won that game. Yeah.
What was that, midweek?
Yeah, that was the Tuesday night. That was the day I got back from Florida. That was Tuesday night.
So he'll be out a while yet.
I think I can't see him coming back another 2 weeks.
I just don't think there's a rush. What are you like? Are you going to win the division? Are you going to miss the playoffs? Like, no. I don't think there is a rush because the rent-a goalie from the AHL is starting, I guess. But like, I don't know. I just think there's no reason to rush him back if it's going to be the difference between him being effective and not.
All right, we'll get into some news and notes. We mentioned Hampus Lindholm. We talk about grade A defensemen out there, Jacob Chychrun and Lindholm.
Lindholm's expiring his contract.
Pending UFA.
Yeah.
And they believe that they could have a number, I think, that they're comfortable with, but I guess term is an issue here. I would imagine
Lindholm wants 8,
28 years old. He wants an 8-year deal. And I don't think Pat Verbeek and the Anaheim Ducks want to give him that. So you unload him?
I don't blame those guys, by the way. I hate the idea that everyone who's been good and is up for a contract gets 8 years. Like 8 years is a huge commitment for someone.
I think it's easier for an incumbent GM, a guy that just comes in to be like, no.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my guys.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's as opposed to a guy who's been there for a long time, right?
Until you think that you have to replace him. And what are your options?
Sure.
Replacing him. So he wants big money. And why wouldn't you? When you've watched Darnell Nurse get 9 and Seth Jones get 9, and the last little while it's been out of control.
Yeah.
And he's represented by Newport, who have the reputation of not taking one dime less. And do you have him in that category where you're not Seth Jones and you're not a $9 million defenseman? You're Brodin at 6.
No.
You're Ekholm at 6'2",
Up.
8.
For sure. I mean, why wouldn't you ask for it?
Yeah.
Look what every defenseman gets. You want the big money, and there's never been a better time to be a good free agent defenseman.
So which means the Leafs, if they were going to trade for a guy like Lindholm, they're
Pure
not able
rental.
to re-sign him.
Pure
Rental, which Dubas does not like doing.
So what are you going to give up for a rental like that?
It's going to be more than Ben Sherratt.
It can't be that much more than Ben Sherratt, or else no one will pay it.
Right. It is just a rental. That's true. Yeah, I mean, so your point there, whether you're making it or not, is that the Sherratt one is so high that it's into the realm of what you should be paying for a guy like Lindholm.
Quite
Correct.
possibly.
Right, but Florida wanted him bad. They wanted, and looking at Florida's D,
if I told you that the Leafs could rent Hampus Lindholm, would that be worth a first and a prospect?
Man, what is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And then losing the first round.
Yeah.
And now it's Nick Foligno all over again.
You got no first because you spent it on Foligno and Lindholm.
So you're not going to get something that helps for nothing.
But this is the thing, and this is the problem I have talking around the Leafs at the deadline. It's like we are like they have to be all in. This is it, prime years, last dance season, and then it's like, but you have to conserve assets because the future. And it's like, well, which is it?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you're doing it because I'm doing it too. I just don't know what the answer is.
This is that emotional element that makes you do some dumb things this time of year.
Oh, and you just wait. You remember, Nylander got the 11th hour call for his contract, and the day before they were like, the clock's running out. It's going to happen this year. That the pressure's going to be on. If they haven't done something already, they're going to do something. So can I tell you my D pairs when they get Lindholm?
Can I ask you guys? Can I ask you a question before you do that?
Yes.
Is there a chance that Florida, they just wanted to get this done? They knew it was an overpay, bang, and that doesn't set the market? Or is it just impossible for that not to set the market? How does that work?
Well, it's almost like the Mitch Marner contract where all the other teams who had RFA deals with Rantanen and everyone else was like, that deal you signed is such an outlier. It's actually not relevant to the conversation. But it didn't change the market all that much.
It sets the market for Wednesday and Thursday and possibly Friday, and then the market changes Saturday, Sunday.
What do you mean?
The bottom falls out.
So for those teams looking to get something, they got to get something.
Whether you're Anaheim or St. Louis. So Thursday and Friday, Ron Francis wants a first rounder for Giordano. Saturday, Sunday, he either understands that he will not get it and he's stuck with them, or he turns it into a second and a prospect.
Okay.
And a mid prospect, or a third and a prospect.
Yeah.
That's when the market changes.
So his hope is someone panics on
Yes.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Yes.
Or Thursday or
And
Friday.
I think if you're Kyle Dubas, for Giordano, you're taking a chance on the weekend.
Yeah.
So the Leafs make the move and they get in. Let's just say it's Lindholm in my
I think
scenario
Lindholm's
here.
worth a first as a rental. Continue.
Okay. So, the Leafs have a lot of left shots, and their best D are their left shot guys. Lindholm would be a left shot guy. So if that were to happen, you get Lindholm. You can have something like Riley Brody, Muzzin Labushkin, Lindholm Sandin as your pairs. Lindholm Sandin is a third pair, or Lindholm Sandin is a second pair, depending on your perspective. Muzzin Labushkin is a third pair. Muzzin Labushkin's a shutdown pair. That's a real one.
Yeah, that is real.
A real NHL shutdown pair.
It could be a little scary against some faster teams.
That's if Muzzin comes back and is the Jake Muzzin.
Right. That's Liljegren and Hall on the outside, and Dermott being moved in my scenario here. Liljegren and Hall both being right shots. Nice guys. Hall can fill in, obviously. He could be, if you don't like Sandin there, you want Hall there, or Labushkin.
Yeah.
Liljegren, if you like.
It looks better.
See,
that's just one guy changes.
I want to go back to the conversation with Mike Fuda, which I thought was outstanding. And if you're just joining us, download it.
Listen to that.
Yeah, download it and listen, because it's fascinating to hear the dynamic from a managerial kind of perspective. And the one thing I want to touch on is that you gotta make sure that you think your team is ready now. And I look in the past with the Leafs over the last few years, and you watch them trade for Plekanec from Montreal and give up a second.
About that.
And then you watch him trade for
that was Lou.
Brian Boyle.
That was Lou. Well, both those were Lou.
And that's fine. I mean, Lou's not perfect by any stretch, but you throw those second rounders and you still got to look at your team and go, okay, but is my team ready? Like, is it worth giving up a second rounder to just win one round? I don't know. But if it's not, it's just, you don't make those trades. And even Lindholm, you can romance it to death right now, which we are doing with your matchups.
Yep.
But you're also making a potential first round pick for Lindholm to leave it in the hands of Shalgren.
I know.
Campbell.
Well, that's Fuda was saying was
Peter Mrazek.
Yeah.
It's like, are you sure you want to do that?
Would you spend that asset then on a goaltender now? Would you want Marc-Andre Fleury?
There's no asset.
Do you want Marc-Andre Fleury? Because Marc-Andre Fleury the name is not going away, and it sounds like he'd go to Toronto.
Oh, is that what you think?
I mean, Frege had it in 32 Thoughts that he was kicked around as an option. That Toronto might be an option.
Think about what his options. I heard Carolina is out. Or I'm sorry, Colorado.
Colorado's out for Fleury.
Yeah, I mean, Kemper's been one of the best goalies in the league.
So then
exactly.
So that means Fleury's
and they like
cheaper.
Frank Kuz too.
Yeah, they just signed him.
They just signed him. So that's not Joe's style. So what's left?
It's not Florida.
For Marc-Andre Fleury.
It's not Tampa.
He won't
go
to
Boston.
I don't think he'll go to Edmonton.
I don't think it's Boston. Is it Boston?
No.
No.
They like Swayman?
I think
Nallmark?
they're comfortable with Swayman.
So, like, if there's just no options but Toronto,
oh my God,
is he a third rounder? Can you get Fleury for a third? You want him for a third rounder?
The third next year.
Kyle would be nuts to give up a first rounder for him.
Nuts. But a second. To me, it's about the cost of acquisition. I don't know that he'll be a solution, but if it's going to cost a mid-round pick, yeah.
To me, I don't even know if it's the cost of acquisition. Sure, not a first. We can all agree not a first.
Not a first.
But I think the statement that makes is just sends ripples throughout everything.
That's the reward kind of to the city, to the players. We're going to get you a Stanley Cup champion goalie.
You get Mrazek one of those nice Heritage Classic jackets with the varsity sleeves to go sit in the press box.
So, but then, I mean, this is tinfoil hat, and this just came to my mind right now. You guys can call me an idiot. But does that also kind of tell your team that that was the problem? That was the problem. You guys, your defensive structure does that let you off the hook a little in that side too? Or is that too tinfoil hat?
I don't know. Everybody's been pointing to goaltending.
Yeah, you need good players. If you think he can help you. with what does it do to Jack Campbell? Does Jack Campbell feel suddenly like he's not good enough? By the way, so let's say you trade Fleury.
You still got to fit it in
the contract.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, you know what? You're probably paying for half retention.
So there's another pick.
Half, and maybe even get another team to.
So you're looking at quarter retention or something. Three-way. Double retention.
Boy.
I think Fleury's best bet is that he stays home, doesn't participate in the playoffs this year, signs in Pittsburgh for $1 million to back up, and they have the retirement season for him.
Everyone has a hug, and off you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not that exciting.
That's no fun.
Depends who you ask.
It just sounds so reasonable when you say it, though.
Claude Giroux, on the other hand,
now we're
is
talking.
Chasing a Stanley Cup.
Game 1,000 tonight, right, for him?
Yep.
Something that Fleury has 3 of those. So he doesn't need to.
God, I want to see Giroux win a cup. I love that. I love the player. By the way, still an excellent player.
Very good.
And what Mike Fuda said, maybe the only game changer type of player that you're going to trade for. So the feeling is from other teams that I've talked to that he's only focused on Florida. That's his choice of destination. He has a no move, which puts a ton of pressure on Chuck Fletcher.
Yeah, that is fascinating. If Florida's the only option, you look at Florida and his cap situation, and Lindsay kind of implied this, but right now Barkov makes 5.9. At the end of this season, it goes up to 10. So there's 4.1 more on your cap. Carter Verhaeghe, he makes 1. He goes up to 4.1. There's another 3.1 to not add. Next year, Florida's cap situation changed by over $7 million to not add. This is the year for them. Mm-hmm. So I can see them, is it another first and a prospect and for Giroux? I can see them being like, this is it.
So much like Fleury in Chicago, these guys can control their own destiny.
Everyone gets no moves now.
If I'm Florida and I know that guy only wants to come to my team, I am not giving you a first rounder.
No chance.
No. Do you like Mason Marchment? He's been very good for us.
They're not getting Mason. But you could get Owen Tippett. There you go. Owen Tippett and a prospect for Claude Giroux. That's it.
God, if I'm a Flyer fan, I am not okay with that.
He's a former first rounder.
Tippett is. Yeah.
You can sell that.
Pedigree.
You can sell it.
Yep.
I don't know what he's going to be. How old is he? 23?
Well, when it comes down to the fact that if your guy with the no move only says he'll go one place, well.
Right?
Okay.
And
Owen Tippett it is.
If you're Chuck Fletcher, you're going to look at Claude Giroux for 20 more games at home saying, no, I wanted a first and didn't want to take their second.
Yeah.
You're going to be that guy that
deny Claude Giroux a cup run after all he's done for the organization. Great point.
Yes.
The personal relationship and obligation to Giroux is real here.
Cats have him over a barrel.
Absolutely, they got him over a barrel. Chuck's going to end up taking whatever he thinks.
If you're the Avs, you're
won't embarrass him.
Yeah,
he's just not looking to get embarrassed. He's not looking to get a great return. He's looking at not getting embarrassed.
But if you're Colorado and you see what's going on there, you're not getting in their ear and saying, "Can you talk to Claude about Colorado again? We'll throw you a second." And I don't know.
But if he says, "I want to go just here," that's the difference here.
Well, we talk about doing right by the player. Are you doing right by the organization? If you're like giving him no outs, I guess you earned your no move clause. You do whatever the hell you want.
1,000 games. He's the captain. Been one of their better players in the league.
And by the way, thanks for all these years for
surrounding me with garbage
donkeys. How about my chance to win a cup here?
Yeah,
they had it. They had Michael Leighton in net. They went to the final. That was an all-time weird goaltender matchup in the final. Leighton versus Antti Niemi.
All right, one more, guys.
Wow.
Yarncroc to Calgary. I thought Seattle did okay. They got a second, a third, and a seventh. But I like Yarncroc a lot.
Got no opinion on Yarncroc.
Do you got a report? Who's our report
Jason
analyst?
Bukala.
Yeah. Did you have a Yarncroc?
Yes, it says he's very good. No, it says like steady guy, right?
Steady
Forecheck, contribute, play
all three positions, penalty kill, second power play,
high hockey IQ. Who do you think would like that as a coach?
playoff pedigree. He's played in a big Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
Nice pickup by Calgary.
Was that with Nashville? Was he on Nashville? Where was he?
Nashville,
when
yeah.
when he went to the final? Was he on that team?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
like that team.
It's tough to look at the Flames and be like Colorado, not be like, I think that Flames team probably beats them. I think they beat them.
You think the Flames beat the Colorado Avalanche?
I know everyone loves Colorado, but
Can we please get that series?
They're going to give them everything they can handle if they don't beat them. Like, they remind me a lot of the Kings teams that Sutter won with in the past.
They're very similar.
They're big and steady and sturdy and veteran, and they
good goaltending.
And you don't look at any of their offensive guys and go, "That's an elite offensive guy." But guys who can score. I know Gaudreau has 1 million points. He's still. We'll see it in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was gonna say we know his playoff stuff.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, so tonight my bet is. What do you got?
I don't think Florida even has their first.
Florida doesn't have a first?
I don't think Florida.
Well, they just traded their first, right?
Was it this year or next year?
I actually don't know that.
I think it was next year.
Oh.
I could be wrong, though.
Maybe that's where it went.
No, it was the 2023 first round pick.
It was 23, okay.
It was?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So they'd have to give up another one. But that's where you do one of those conditional picks.
Yeah.
Get to the second, go to a conference final, win the Stanley Cup. A third becomes a second.
Sure. If this guy provides us more value, we'll give you more back.
They have all their picks next year except for the first, and they have all their picks except for the second the following year.
Okay.
So.
All right. What happens tonight?
Leafs locks tonight. So the over-under for Carolina Hurricanes goals of 2.5. If you bet under 2.5, it's plus 137. Now, do I think they're going to be under 2 goals against the Leafs? Probably not. No. But weird things happen right now, and it would just be very Leafy for Shalgren to confuse everyone.
Pitch another shutout.
Let in 1, let in 2.
Can he make up for the Zamboni driver?
Oh.
No.
With a shutout.
No.
Can he erase that from everyone's memory?
No, Ayers is going on Jay Leno tonight, so no, he can't.
Smith with the Men in Black stick could not erase that. There it is. There's no undoing it.
What you have it in front of you? Marner goal tonight? Feeling a Marner goal tonight?
You feeling a Marner goal? That's plus 200.
Like that.
All right.
How about his 40 plus assists, 6 straight seasons or something? Record fastest in history
for
the Leafs.
Sounds good to me. Beep boop beep. Let me check. It's perfect.
Yeah, confirmed.
A little Marner love to end the show. All right. Our thanks to Bill Lindsay, Gord Stelletricity, and Mike Fuda. If you did not hear the Mike Fuda, download the podcast. It's phenomenal. We have 600 watchers today on YouTube.
Well over.
One more like button for us, please. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're back tomorrow talking Leafs Carolina. Safe night, everybody.